Ad News Magazine YouTube channel, mostly we post these topics. 1. Shocking news. 2. Entertainment. 3. How to. 4. Popular stories. So don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Teacher gets a shock when she opens this boy's file. This is heartbreaking. Stories like this always have a way of putting the right perspective on life. Jean Thompson stood in front of her 5th grade class on the very first day of school in the fall and told the children a lie. Like most teachers, she looked at her pupils and said that she loved them all the same, that she would treat them all alike. And that was impossible because there in front of her, slumped in his seat on the 3rd row, was a little boy named Eddie Stoddard. Mrs. Thompson had watched Eddie the year before and noticed he didn't play well with the other children, that his clothes were unkempt and that he constantly needed a bath. And Eddie was unpleasant. It got to the point during the first few months that she would actually take delight in marking his papers with a broad red pen, making bold X's and then marking the F at the top of the paper biggest of all. Because Eddie was a sullen little boy, no one else seemed to enjoy him, either. At the school where Mrs. Thompson taught, she was required to review each child's records and put Eddie's off until last. When she opened his file, she was in for a surprise. His 1st grade teacher wrote, "Eddie is a bright, inquisitive child with a ready laugh. He does his work neatly and has good manners. He is a joy to be around." His 2nd grade teacher wrote, "Eddie is an excellent student well liked by his classmates, but he is troubled because his mother has a terminal illness and life at home must be a struggle." His 3rd grade teacher wrote, "Eddie continues to work hard but his mother's death has been hard on him. He tries to do his best but his father doesn't show much interest and his home life will soon affect him if some steps aren't taken." Eddie's 4th grade teacher wrote, "Eddie is withdrawn and doesn't show much interest in school. He doesn't have many friends and sometimes sleeps in class. He is tardy and could become a problem." By now Mrs. Thompson realized the problem, but Christmas was coming fast. It was all she could do, with the school play and all, until the day before the holidays began and she was suddenly forced to focus on Eddie Stoddard. Her children brought her presents, all in beautiful ribbon and bright paper, except for Eddie's, which was clumsily wrapped in the heavy, brown paper of a scissored grocery bag. Mrs. Thompson took pains to open it in the middle of the other presents. Some of the children started to laugh when she found a rhinestone bracelet with some of the stones missing, and a bottle that was 1/4 full of cologne. She stifled the children's laughter when she exclaimed how pretty the bracelet was, putting it on, and dabbing some of the perfume behind the other wrist. Eddie Stoddard stayed behind just long enough to say, "Mrs. Thompson, today you smell just like my mom used to." After the children left she cried for at least an hour. On that very day, she quit teaching reading, writing, and speaking. Instead, she began to teach children. Jean Thompson paid particular attention to one they all called Teddy. As she worked with him, his mind seemed to come alive. The more she encouraged him, the faster he responded. On days where there would be an important test, Mrs. Thompson would remember that cologne. By the end of the year he had become one of the smartest children in the class and well, he had also become the pet of the teacher who had once vowed to love all of her children exactly the same. A year later she found a note under her door, from Teddy, telling her that of all the teachers he'd had in elementary school, she was his favorite. 6 years went by before she got another note from Teddy. He then wrote that he had finished high school, 3rd in his class, and she was still his favorite teacher of all time. 4 years after that, she got another letter, saying that while things had been tough at times, he'd stayed in school, had stuck with it, and would graduate from college with the highest of honors. He assured Mrs. Thompson she was still his favorite teacher. Then 4 more years passed and yet another letter came. This time he explained that after he got his bachelor's degree, he decided to go a little further. The letter explained that she was still his favorite teacher, but that now his name was a little longer. The letter was signed, Theodore F. Stoddard, M.D. The story doesn't end there. You see, there was yet another letter that spring. Teddy said he'd met this girl and was to be married. He explained that his father had died a couple of years ago and he was wondering, well, if Mrs. Thompson might agree to sit in the pew usually reserved for the mother of the groom. And guess what? She wore that bracelet, the one with several rhinestones missing. And I bet on that special day, Gene Thompson smelled just like, well, just like the way Daddy remembered his mother smelling on their last Christmas together. The moral: you never can tell what type of impact you may make on another's life by your actions or lack of action. Consider this fact in your venture through life. Thanks for watching. So let's get started. And subscribe this channel, newsmagazine.com.